Welcome to Encouragement on Fire. This is a fabulous day. I'm Shirley Farrar, and we have someone in that we're interviewing today. He has a lot of titles. His name in the community is Brian Fox, but he's also Pastor Brian Fox. He has a lot of different titles. I'm going to let him introduce himself in a moment, but welcome, Brian. Welcome to Encouragement on Fire.
And thank you for having me. I'm honored because I love you like family.
I know,
you and your husband,
yeah. Y'all my family too. Absolutely.
My boy Daryl.
Yes. Yes. We've known each other a long time. What's it been? Seemed like maybe over 25 years now, something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our kids grew up together, even though your kids are towering over me, which is shameful, but I got to get over it.
That's genetics, man. It's just genetics.
Exactly.
I couldn't even stop it if I could, right? If I wanted to. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also, of course, a man of faith, like you and your wonderful husband, who is a dear brother to me, and you're a dear sister to me.
Yeah.
Professionally, I'm a software engineer, technical architect by trade, and I own a corporation, Dynamic Software Solutions. So I'll be celebrating 35 years in the industry of IT on May 18th, because I kept track of the date when I started my career. Also been married to my wife, Pamela, for 34 and almost a half years.
Ooh, yes.
So we've been in the game for a while. I have two sons, Kyle and Trey. Kyle's 31, Trey is 28. So we've been blessed. I can't complain. Just been blessed.
Oh,
so
that
I'm
is
excited
wonderful.
to be here.
And you're here to be able to enjoy your family. You're here. And many of our listeners, they're going through their process. Some have lost some along the way. We're talking about disease, sickness. Mainly we're talking about cancer in our podcast. But many people have lost many along the way. And one of the reasons I wanted to interview you is simply because you are an overcomer. You're considered a survivor. You're considered, like I say, more than a conqueror, because you're a faith-based person. So you're more than a conqueror in Christ Jesus. And I wanted the world to know your story. I wanted them to know, what did you do? So can you tell us, in your process, how did you even find out that when you had the diagnosis of cancer?
Okay, this was 2008, and the reason it's easy for me to remember is that I got my surgery 3 weeks before my son graduated in 2009. So I can kind of benchmark it by that. And what happened is I had going to my doctor every year. I did have a history of asthma where I was chronic with it for probably about 3.5 years after it was triggered by a car accident. I think my body got jostled. I had to get out of the car. It was cold and rainy. So I went through 3.5 years of struggling with that, had several life-threatening situations where I got rushed to the hospital. Right. I continued to fast and pray and, ask the Lord to heal me of it. And every time I thought I was healed, it would come roaring back, and it would seem like I was doubling my medication. Matter of fact, I had a doctor one time. She must have had a bad day or something, but she handed me a script, doubling some of my inhalers, and said, "Say hello to your wife." And as far as I'm concerned, I was like, "Devil's a liar." That was almost like Satan himself challenging me. Here's what you're married to. And I was like, "Oh, no, I'm not. I'm married to Pamela Fox, and that's it." So I was even more determined than ever before. So I ended up praying and saying, "Lord, I got to beat this. Show me what else I need to do to overcome the asthma." And I know I'm supposed to talk about cancer, but I'm leading up to that.
No, so go right ahead.
There was Dr. Charles Waters had done a teaching at our church at the time. And he actually talked about how he had gone through a situation with diabetes and how he had basically fasted, prayed, begged, tried this and that to get healed. And one of the times when he asked the Lord to heal him, the Lord is like, "I'm going to heal you, but you've got a responsibility." And he said, "What is it?" And the Lord's like, "I don't care what the weather is. You're going to get outside and walk or exercise every day." And he said, once he did his part, the Lord healed him of the diabetes. Once I heard that, I was like, that's the Lord speaking to me. I immediately started training like a really grueling regimen on almost a daily basis. I skipped Sundays, of course, but I was training almost every day, pushing my body. And here's the thing, sometimes I would take my asthma medication and it would give me the side effect that I would feel like I had the flu. But, and of course, feeling that way is like, oh, I can't exercise today. But I basically adopted a policy. If I feel like I can't go today, I'm going to press in even harder today because I got to push against that wall and not give up to it. And by me doing that, the Lord eventually healed me of the asthma. I've been asthma free, even though doctors medically say, I had a doctor tell me it's chronic. You can never be healed of asthma. There's no clinical proof. I said, I'm your clinical proof. I beat asthma. He used to literally ask me, why don't you need your inhalers? Why aren't you refilling your inhalers? I don't need them. I'm healed. So anyway, coming from that, I kept my policy of getting my annual checkups. And even though I was in great physical shape, I had just gone through training where I had to do 8 hours of testing. I ran 5 miles. You had to do it within 13 minutes. I did that. They pushed me to try to break our bodies down. I passed every test. And I had to test every 6 months for the type of training I was doing physically. And despite that, I still had the situation where, not to get too graphic, but I would go to the bathroom. And then after I would come back from going to the bathroom, I was like, man, it still feels like I got to go a little bit. So I would go back. And so I did some internet research, and it said, okay, well, a lot of times guys might need saw palmetto or zinc or different things to alleviate those symptoms. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. I started using that. It would go away for about 6 months, then it would come back. Then it would go away and come back. And I went through these cycles. So my doctor, fortunately, he said, look, Brian, he said, I love you like a son. That might not be professional, but I love you like a son. And if you don't mind, as an African-American man who has, more of a tendency to get early stage prostate cancer, I'd like to start testing you early. So I was like, fine, anything you want to do, doctor, that's good with me. Right. So I had my first test, fine. I think the next year I was fine. Then I think the third year, it jumped up to 2 point something. Then the following year, it jumped up to, I think, 2.7, 2.8. And then the third year of the PSA, it jumped up to 3.7. He told me, he said, look, not to be alarmed, usually it may not necessarily be a problem until you get over a 4 point something, but let's get you biopsy just in case. And when I did that, sure enough, they came back and said that you have cancer in 3 areas of your prostate. And I don't know if you want to go into the treatment yet, but that's how I got to the point of knowing what I had.
Well, let me ask you a question, because you were saying your doctor wanted you to do early treatment, or excuse me, not early treatment. He wanted you to do early testing. And one of the things you mentioned was you're a Black man or African-American man, those that are more particular about that. And, in certain cultures, we don't tend to go to the doctor because we try to stay away from it. So in our culture as African-Americans or Black people, we don't go to the doctor as often, but we should get those annual checkups. And for you, because you did that, you were successful because it was early detection. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, exactly what I'm saying. And I can totally concur with what you're saying about, as a people, maybe not women, I can't speak for women, but for Black men, I'm a part of a group that's Black husbands and fathers, 2 different Facebook groups. One of them is probably around 80,000 people. You don't know how many threads we have. Oh, I'm scared to go to the doctor. I'm scared to go to the doctor. I'm scared. I mean, over and over again. 2 major groups, tens of thousands of Black men. Now, these same Black men, if you challenge them on the street, ain't nobody mess with me. But they're scared to get a blood test and, the digital test. And just to be clear, in terms of your early detection, I've had some people tell me like, well, I got the digital test that all of us as men dread. You know, women have their annual checkups. Ours is like a baby routine in comparison. But yeah, let's be real. We got this secret fear that, oh, if the doctor goes there, like, ain't nobody trying to violate you, dude. They just trying to check you out medically. And matter of fact, my doctor actually made the digital test amusing, because right as he's putting on the glove and putting on the gel, he said, look, I'm not going to like this any more than you, so let's get it over with. And as soon as he said that, I wasn't totally relaxed, but I was as relaxed as you could be considering the situation. And it doesn't hurt. It took him probably 5 seconds. And that aspect of the test, they're actually feeling your prostate. The prostate is kind of walnut sized. And sometimes if you have a problem with your prostate, it'll feel harder or, rigid. In terms of my digital test, and here's why you need both. When he did my digital test, my prostate felt normal. It was my blood work that ended up indicating there was an issue. Some people say I get the blood work. Some people say I get the digital test. No, you need to do both. Both are important. And especially the blood test is important, because I think it goes down into like micrograms, like thousands of grams in terms of the level of detection. So it might not be something that gets flagged real high, but the blood will expose it. Amen. It's almost like the Bible, the blood speaks.
Right. That is good content. So you're encouraging people, men, women, but particularly men and Black men, go and get your annual checkups, because if you had not done that, your family would have suffered possibly without you here in the earth.
Right. I'm here, 12 years later?
Right.
13 years later. My anniversary is in June. And once again, I know my anniversary because 2009, I had my test. I was supposed to have a month before my son graduated from high school, my oldest son. They pushed it back a week for some reason. I was like, oh man, I got 3 weeks. But here's the thing. I made sure I kept faith totally in the situation, because I was like, man, am I going to miss my son's graduation? Should I push back the surgery? But who wants to push back a surgery for something as major as cancer? So, and my doctor, I was blessed. They patched me in with one doctor. All of a sudden, my doctor said, if you don't mind, it's like I'm a piano player, but the guy I'm going to patch you into, he's a virtuoso. He trains doctors. I was like, brother, patch on.
There you go.
So my surgeon was actually teaching people how to do that. And at the time, the Da Vinci surgical device, which he used on me, was state of the art. And only one hospital at the time, Lady of Lourdes in Camden, even had it. I got patched not only to a virtuoso doctor, but the only hospital in the area that had that device. It's probably commonplace now, but at the time, it was something that was unique. And like I said, I knew it was a thing of faith. I continue to study healing scriptures every day. I printed out some scriptures that I took to me when I went for my surgery, which came into play because the surgery before me got delayed by an hour. And I was like, what's going on? And then a little bit of anxiety started to come in. And I was like, all right, it's time to get the ammo. I pulled out my pages of scriptures. By the time I got through the first passage of scripture, I was like, oh, I'm good. And when the surgeon came to get me, and he said, you got any questions? I was like, man, we got this, man. Let's go get this over with.
That's right. So, you got to
so
encourage yourself.
I studied Perry Stone's book, How to Take Daily Communion. And I started doing communion, saying, hey, by your stripes, I'm healed. By the blood you shed, I am healed. And I've prayed for people who have been medically healed of cancer. And in my case, I said, you know what, Lord, it's in your hands. Either way you want to go is fine with me. I know you can heal me miraculously because I've seen it happen. But if you take me the surgical route, I want it to be for your honor and glory. So show me, what you want to bring out of this. And the funny thing is, I got no answer initially. And then one day I was driving my car, and all of a sudden I heard it clear as a whistle. Sometimes a tree has to be tapped to produce its sap. Sometimes a vial has to be broken to release this ointment. He's like, I'm allowing you to be pierced so that ointment, to touch and bless other people with your testimony will flow. And I've had that happen. I can't tell you how many times over the years. I've spoken to total strangers, other states, girlfriends, boyfriends, women's husbands, people I only know. Like, can I give you your number? I'm like, sure. I'm willing to help anybody get through the process. So, I can't forget this. I almost forgot it twice. I had two promises I made to God. I was like, not only am I going to share my testimony, but as a sign of faith, not only am I going to attend my son's graduation, but I also got an invitation to preach at a church. I wonder who that was. And I was like, I'm going to preach at the Ferrari church. And here's the thing, I didn't even tell y'all, because y'all might have been like, oh, brother, maybe we should wait and heal. I kept both promises.
Yep. We did not know. At that time, we did not know.
I shared it then. That's right.
And I know that you have spoken over people, and because we've known each other a long time. And I know that you have laid hands on people and they have gotten healed. I know that from them going back to the doctor and then before and after. So that is a gift from God. And we need to acknowledge those things more. And you said something about you were healed of asthma. And I can testify, my oldest son had asthma. And, we teach our children have gone through the church. We've taught our kids. And one thing I can say is, even when I was going through my situation, my boys were calling me, they were speaking to me and saying, when I used to doubt, Mom, the word of God says this. And I was like, ooh, so they were just telling me, I was like, wow. But when my son was 11, 12 years old, something like that, 13, there was an actual racing event. You know how they have those ones at what's that park in Camden? They have, what is it?
Was it Wiggins?
No, the main park. You walk around and it's like a couple of miles.
Cooper
River Park, right? They had some type of an event, and you have to run. That morning we woke up. He had a bad asthma attack. Oh my goodness, it was so bad. He could barely talk. And I told him, I said, I don't think you can run. You're gonna have to. He said to me, I'm healed. That's what he said to me. I'm healed. And I was like, oh, well, I don't want to tell him, oh, no, you don't want to say that to your child, because you teach them you can be healed. God does heal. And he said, Mom, I'm healed. I can do it. And so I just watched him. I let him do what he needed to do. Do you know he ended up winning that race?
Wow, that's awesome.
He won the race. And guess what? Never took another day of asthma medication after that.
That's a good point.
You understand how powerful that? I was like, what was the odds? Now, what if I had joined in and said, no, son, you can't? I would have gotten an agreement with the negative side instead of allowing him the opportunity to overcome in his way. So I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah, you know what? I actually had a couple similar situations as it relates to what you just said about him. Sometimes in faith, there could be a passive faith, and I'm not criticizing that, where we're just praying and we're believing God. But then sometimes, the kingdom of heaven suffers violence, but the violent got to take it by force.
Yes.
You got to take that thing.
Yes. And
he took that situation. And I had a similar time when I talked about the testing I had to do that started with a run. The very first time I did it was a freezing cold day, and cold temperatures were one of my asthma triggers. I would start wheezing. So, I had like a shoulder bag with a hot thermos, a thermos of like hot tea in it. And I was like, well, if I start feeling like I'm wheezing, I could take a sip. So I started running. I did probably like the first leg of the trip, hadn't got to the 1 mile mark. And I started feeling like I was wheezing a little bit. And that mindset tried to come in like, oh, I'm not going to make it. How are you going to run 5 miles? You didn't get to mile number 1. And then I was like, no, I'm not running 5 miles. I'm running one more step. For the rest of that 5 miles, I just ran one more step. I just said, Brian, just one more step. Don't look at sometimes we look at the big victory. Sometimes we got to break it down and say, let me get small ones.
Absolutely.
So I just did a bunch of small ones that got all the way to the end. And then as it related to overcoming the asthma altogether, the other thing I used to get, and a lot of people with asthma suffer from this, panic attacks, because your brain will say, I can't breathe, especially if you start wheezing or your chest gets tight, your brain will start saying, I can't breathe. And I even had times with the asthma when I was dealing with panic attacks or feeling like a panic attack was coming on, like I would take deep breaths. Yes, you can breathe. But my brain would still be saying, no, you can't. So it's like that whole dynamic's going on. I sit there, yes, I can breathe, I can breathe, and no, you can't. Your brain's, no, you can't, no, you can't. And I would have to press through. Sometimes I would have to read scriptures. Sometimes I would have to play praise or worship to lift that heaviness off of me. I mean, sometimes it was a series of praise and worship songs. Other times, I had one day, this song blessed me. I am not lying. I played that song the entire day at work on repeat. One song. Know why? That was the song that was going to get me through. And when I finally beat it, the devil used to also come at me in terms of traveling, because, okay, well, if you suffer from asthma and you might have a, asthma attack and need to get rushed to the hospital, how can you, drive 10 miles away or fly 10 miles away or whatever? So with the thought of going on a trip, sometimes that anxiety would come through. So one time when I finally had enough, I paid for tickets down to Orlando. We went to Disney that year. And I said, devil, you're going to have to kill me to keep me off that plane. And when I challenged him and I got on that plane and I went, I never had a problem with anxiety attacks again. So I had to look that devil in the eye and say, I'm challenging you. You got to kill me because I'm not going to fear you anymore. You got to do the David and Goliath thing. That word Goliath, one of the translations in the underlying Hebrew is tyrant and bully. So whatever that thing is you're fearing in terms of your health, it's a bully. It's trying to taunt you. And if you recall, Goliath taunted them for 40 days? He didn't even do anything yet. I'm just standing here taunting you. You're sitting there like, oh, he's going to kill me.
It was his appearance. That was torment enough. They're like, woo, you see that brother over there? You see how big he is? Oh, I'm not messing with him.
Your son, he looked that thing in the face and said, he may not say the same exact thing, but basically you had to kill me to prevent me from winning this race. And then he went and won it. And because he had such a major victory, that's why in the spirit, it probably broke that spirit of infirmity off of him, and that asthma was gone. And I think the same thing happened to me in terms of my asthma. Yeah. So I just my new job, I just went to New York most of a week. Did I jump on the plane to LA and back? I was chilling. I'm going to London. I'm going to London. I'm going to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Since I faced that devil in the face and said, I'm not going to fear you anymore. If you're going to kill me, kill me. Otherwise, get up out of my way.
Get out of my way, right? I hear that. You were talking about goals. And then you also spoke on everyone has a song that you played a song over and over. My song when I first started, oh my goodness, there was a couple of different ones, but mine was Spirit Lead. I don't know if you heard of that song, Spirit Lead Me. Over and over in my ear. That was the only thing I could get through. I was like, Spirit lead me. No matter what, like you said, no matter if live or die, I'm going to give glory to God. And I'm going to thank him every day for my healing, whether it's on this side or on the next, because I'm healed. Do you know what I mean? I'm healed no matter what. And I think that's what my son was saying. He's healed no matter what, because that's all we taught him. That's all we taught him. We didn't teach him anything else.
He didn't have any garbage to filter out. Right. He had the foundation you laid in his mind and his spirit.
Right.
So anybody trying to tell him otherwise, he's probably looking at them like, seriously?
And that's what he was, literally, he looked at me like that morning. And I was like, oh, this is this is a good morning. This is a good moment for that teaching process. And I took advantage of it. And I'm so glad that we did, because he literally won the race and then didn't have asthma no more.
So, look, he got 2 trophies.
2 trophies that day, right? Now, you also said, let me see, hold on. I want to make sure. You said that there was a process of your treatment. Can you share with the audience about the process of treatment?
Yeah, the first part was the biopsy, which is not very comfortable. It doesn't hurt or anything, but it's kind of like the guy's equivalent of being in the stirrups. With
that's
2
all
guys
you need
there.
to say. That's all you need to say, you know, but you still encouraged them to do it, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You won't need that step unless they think you might have cancer.
Okay.
So doing the digital and the PSA, you're good.
Hi, everyone. I stopped the interview between myself and Pastor Brian Fox because there was so much content that he was providing you. I really think it's really important for you to listen to the content again, especially our men, our African-American men, our Black men. Go over the content and see what good information that you can utilize moving forward. It's really important to me and to those that are listeners that we help one another to begin to start over and to reevaluate the things that are most important. And Pastor Brian Fox was really telling us that it's so crucial for our women and men to get pre-testing, get the testing ahead of time so that you can be here for your families. Now, the next part 2 of the interview is again another 30 minutes. So I didn't want to overwhelm you with too much content, but the content that's coming forward, I just want you to know that you want to tune in for the second part of this interview. Pastor Fox is going to get in detail of the procedure that he went through. I mean, very detailed and technical. And it's important that you listen and hear what he's saying. You want to make sure that if you can avoid cancer, avoid it. But if you want to do a pre-screening, you need to do that to catch it at an early stage. And as you progress forward, if you unfortunately have to go through the procedure that he did, go through it because it's not what you think. Sometimes the mind plays tricks on us or it causes things to be worse than what they really are. So listen to what he has to say in our second part, which will come either next week or 2 weeks from now. So make sure you stay tuned on YouTube at 8 p.m. on Sunday nights to get the real facts about the detail of the procedure. And he's going to share some more additional content with you as well. So make sure you tune in. Okay. And I want to make sure that I remind everybody, Conqueror, you see the Conqueror on my shirt here and the Conqueror behind me. We will be having our October the 1st walkathon, and we will be announcing very soon where that walkathon will be. I'm letting you know it will be in Camden County, New Jersey. So stay tuned. I'll talk to you soon.